Recording in progress.
All I can say is from the back, you look very serious. Smile, you're on camera. It's been live streamed. Thousands of people are tuned. That's what I see. You're smiling now. I thought you were going to a funeral first. These are all your electric. Oh, it's been a long day for all of you, you know. Anyway, I warmed them up, so go to you.
Thanks, Gary. Okay. Is that loud enough? Sound good? Okay. Okay. Good evening, everyone. My name is Brittany Brown, and I'm the Executive Director for San Diego County Farm Bureau. I would like to thank everyone gathered here tonight. We appreciate your presence at the San Diego County Farm Bureau Supervisor Candidate Election Forum. For those who haven't already, I encourage you to sign in at the back table. We're trying to improve our online communication and keep our members current on what's happening at Farm Bureau, and it will help us to stay connected with you if we have an updated contact list. So please take the time to sign in. Tonight's forum is a valuable public service aiming to provide an impartial platform for meaningful conversation on crucial issues and allow us to hear directly from the candidates. We'll be starting with District 1, followed by 2, and then 5. To ensure fairness, we've utilized a research randomizer to establish a random order for both questions and closing statements. Each candidate will have opportunity at a 2-minute opening statement, followed by 4 questions with a 3-minute response time each, and finally a 2-minute closing statement. Our moderator for the evening is Mary Lou Covelt, a respected past president of San Benito County Farm Bureau. She will read the questions aloud and then prompt the next candidate, announcing them by name. We won't repeat the question unless asked by the candidate. To help everyone stay within their allotted time, our timekeeper will raise a yellow card when there are 30 seconds remaining and a red card to indicate the end of the allotted time. Candidates are not obligated to use all the provided time if they choose not to. It's important to note the selection of questions has been developed by the San Benito County Farm Bureau board members, and their presentation here does not imply endorsement. Without further ado, I invite Mary Lou Covelt to the stage to introduce the candidates and begin this informative evening. Thank you once again for being here.
Good evening. It's my pleasure to introduce to you District 1 candidates. You're welcome to stand up if you like. Stacy McGrady, Dustin Weber, and Supervisor Don Sanger. Welcome. District 2, John Freeman, Supervisor Colin Kosmiski. I have messed up her name for years, Colin. Kosmicki. Thank you. District 5, Supervisor B. Gonzalez. Running against her is Ignacio Velasquez, who is not present. He declined our invitation. Thought you ought to know that, folks. No problem about it. Again, this is randomized selection, so our first question will be for, sorry, there's a lot of people. I just didn't follow that. Question 1.
Mary Lou. The openers.
Oh, I'm sorry, forgive
It's
me.
okay.
No wonder these papers are all here in front of us. We do have an opening statement for 2 minutes for each candidate. My apologies, Stacy McGrady, you will start, please.
Mary Lou, thank you so much, and Brittany and the Farm Bureau. It is my pleasure to be here this evening and to see so many familiar faces and old friends. My name is Stacy McGrady. I've lived here in San Benito County for over 20 years. I come here with 30 years in law enforcement And what I'm especially proud of is my time in South Monterey County, where I was a part of the Rural Crime Prevention Task Force and also Western States Livestock Investigators Association. Who knew? I was a big part of ag crime and ag crime prevention and investigation in Monterey County for many years before I promoted to detective and then detective sergeant in Monterey County. Since living here in San Benito County, I've been very involved with our agriculture community. I was involved with 4-H, FFA. I most recently served 2 terms on the civil grand jury, which is the experience that has compelled me to run for public office. And I am a proud member of the San Benito Farm Bureau. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next statement, Dustin Weber.
Hi, everyone. My name is Dustin Weber. I'm for District 1. I want to thank the hosts and the attendees and everyone here tonight for this opportunity. This is a great opportunity to answer questions and hear concerns from folks. I'm gonna give you a little bit about my background and then why I'm running, and we'll end there. But I originally from the East Bay, from the East Bay area in California, out in Concord, Martinez area. When I was young, I was diagnosed as a type 1 diabetic. It's something I still have today. It's been with me for more than 30 years, and it's probably the thing that most got me involved in public policy and public service stuff. And I say that because in healthcare issues, while, sort of tangentially relevant here tonight at Farm Bureau, became very personal for me and my family. And so understanding how public policy can have very personal impacts is something I've known for a long time. I went to college at Cal State East Bay, used to be Hayward, got my degree in political science and with a pre-law emphasis. After I was done with my undergraduate work, I did look for some public service opportunities, but didn't find a suitable one. And I wound up actually in coffee warehousing and coffee roasting, commercial coffee sector. I learned here, I started on the warehouse floor, but I ended up learning a lot about food safety and food quality, which does have some relevance to agriculture. I ended up going back to law school because public service is a passion of mine, and got the opportunity to serve as an aide for Congresswoman Lofgren, where I did work on agricultural issues. So my focus was generally in Monterey County and Santa Cruz County after redistricting. So I hope to bring that experience, my background, and everything to benefit the folks of District 1 and San Benito County. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Don Taylor.
Yeah, thank you. Now we're the same height.
Yeah.
Good evening, everybody. Thanks for coming out tonight. I see a lot of familiar faces as well. I'm not going to take Mark Wright's bit like he did last year when he went around and talked about how he knew every single person individually. I'll just say I see a lot of familiar faces. And those of you that don't know me, my name is Dom Zanger. I'm your current District 1 County Supervisor. I was raised here in San Benito County, in District 1 actually, where my family's been farming for over 100 years. So I've been on the board for just over a year now, and I'm very excited and happy with what I've been able to get going on the board, the work I've been able to accomplish and what I'm in the middle of. So campaigned on a few important things, and I'm happy to say that I'm addressing those things. I think very precisely, I would say. One of those was the roads. And so since I've been on the board, since I took office, we've nearly doubled the size of our road crew. We have a third-party contractor doing pothole work in North County right now, and that was because Supervisor Kosmicki and myself brought that to the board. Long-term, lots of roads in District 1 are going to be completely repaved, starting with Shore Road this year after the rains are done. It's doing a lot with roads. Another thing I campaigned on was the growth. I promised to slow the residential housing growth, and I think I've done that. We voted against subdivisions that have come to the board, prevented hundreds of more houses right off of Fairview. Done a number of other things, cracked down on illegal dumping, got new equipment for our sheriff's office. So got time there. So very happy with what we've been able to get done, and I just ask for your support to keep working. Thank you.
Thank you, candidates for District 1. This is District 2 candidates, John Freeman.
Thank you. Good evening, and thank you for hosting this great event tonight. My name is John Freeman. I've been on the San Juan Bautista City Council for the last 7 years. I have longstanding ties to the agricultural community. My family owned an avocado. We were having an argument in the back. It was a grove or an orchard. in northern San Diego County, a little town called Escondido. So I'm familiar with the negative effects of growth, because that little town, 12,000 is now 180,000. And I no longer recognize it. So, I've been doing that for, excuse me, I've been on city council for the last 7 years, and I'm proud of my record. I'm the one, when I ran in 2015 and 16, my main object was to improve the water situation. It has been a tough haul. It has been a long road. But right as we speak, there are two projects, $32 million for the two of them total. Actually, bigger public works project than the county roads, which is at 28 million. And as a great side effect, we're gonna pave little old San Juan Bautista. It's gonna pave 7 roads in the San Juan Valley, in the county. So that's Bixby, Duncan, San Justo, you name them. We're gonna repave them, and they're gonna be nice roads. So I'm taking a backseat to nobody on the roads. Like Dom, I've been in office, like I said, for 7 years, and I've been on several county and regional committees. I'm the past president of AMBAG, which is a MPO, that stands for Metropolitan Planning Organization for the Tri-County area. The Tri-Counties are Santa Cruz County, San Benito County, and Monterey County. I'm the first president of AMBAG.
Thank you, Mr. Freeman. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm Colin Kosmicki. I grew up in Wisconsin, the dairy state, and basically I moved here to Hollister in 2002 after I graduated from college, and I came here to work at the newspapers, and I think I was pretty much well known as the guy at the newspapers for a number of years. I was the editor of the Freelance, and for a time the Pinnacle as well. In that role, I was tasked with holding local officials accountable. So I gained a lot of enemies through the years in that role, probably. That's okay. And I feel proud of what I did here in this community, keeping people informed. Started my own business called San Benito Live in 2017, and it was going very well. And then in 2019, Anthony Botello announced he wasn't running again, and the light bulb clicked, and I ran for supervisor and won in 2020. I live in the San Juan Valley with my wife and 2 children, a 15-year-old and a 2-year-old. And I am extremely proud of what we've done on the board so far in just 3 years. First of all, we approved $28 million in road improvements. This is the biggest one-time investment in county roads, and as far as I know in the history of the county, putting aside new taxes like Measure G, biggest investment. Roads like the rest of Union, roads like San Juan Highway near Anzar High, roads like San Juan Canyon, Salinas Road. The back roads of San Juan, I just want to make a correction. The county's going to be repaving the other half of those roads as the city of San Juan lays the pipe and does the pavement. The county's putting $4 million to do the other half of those roads to make sure that they're properly repaved. Other things I've done, haven't improved any housing. I believe we got to get on the right track with fixing our infrastructure. We can grow at a responsible pace once we fix our infrastructure. Working on saving the hospital, increase funding towards senior services. Was instrumental in the Riverview Regional Park moving forward and developing that park concept. I was instrumental in the library expansion and public safety and many other things. Thank you.
Thank you, Colin. Thank you, District 2. This is District 5 Supervisor P. Gonzalez.
Hello, Supervisor P. Gonzalez, how are you doing? I'm glad to be here tonight. Since we have redistricting, District 5 is now rural, where previously it wasn't, and so rural and the Farm Bureau is rather new to me. I think I attended the Christmas event 2 years ago, and I think that's kind of was my first dip in the water, fee-wise. But in terms of how long I've been in the community, I have been here all my life. I'm 62 this year, born and raised here, built a home here, raised a family here, graduated from San Benito High. I attended law school because I saw the way the justice system doled out justice in this community. Those that are more affluent were treated one way versus those, the indigent population was treated another. So I've been a teacher for 25 years in one way or another. I am firmly invested in this community. I know there's been a question regarding my residency. There's no question to be asked. I am a resident of San Benito County District 5, born and raised. So let's check that off the box. Going back to Supervisor Kozmicki comment about the 28 million. Yes, I was on the board with him and we did do that. The San Benito County Board of Supervisors has done significant improvements in the county. We're working on more public-private partnerships because what we need to do, the county can't do it on its own. We don't have the funding, we don't have the economic base to do so. And so we have to look outside the box. We have to be creative. We have to reach across the aisle, whether it's a Republican, Democrat, but we have to reach across the aisle. We have to look at creative sources in terms of working together as a community, uniting and working for a common goal. So we'll talk about my accomplishments later because there are many, but just thank you for allowing me to be here tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That concludes the opening statements, and now we get to ask questions. Sorry, I jumped the gun on that. Our first candidate to be asked is Dustin Weber. And the first question, and please feel free to ask me to repeat it, I don't mind. First question is, how do you intend to engage with the agricultural community and its stakeholders to ensure that their right to farm is considered in decision-making, particularly in light of the recently proposed amendments to the general plan, specifically the 8 changes considered at the recent Board of Supervisors meeting on January 16th, 2024?
Okay. Thank you for the question. Well, in terms of the first element of your question about engaging stakeholders, I think it's important to be consistent, both attending the Farm Bureau meetings, debriefing with folks who were there and can attend, having community engagements and meetings with farmers and growers and other stakeholders where these issues impact them. So as supervisor, I would certainly take that tact in terms of staying engaged both with the farming community and the communities that are impacted by farming and growing and agricultural issues in the county. In terms of protecting the right to farm and folks' property, I think that's a key issue. I am familiar with the 8 proposals that were pitched, or I think they were pitched earlier and then they were reviewed at the January board meeting. There was some concern there over cost. I understand there was a $500,000 grant to help implement some of the first 8 changes. And then there was a 10% county fee that would have to cover that. And then there were additional changes to other elements of the general plan that would have taken, another $400,000 or $500,000. So it's important in a county like ours to be considerate of those costs. I think it's important to engage all the stakeholders that would be impacted by these changes before we make any of the changes to the general plan. And that's how I proceed with addressing that.
Thank you. The second candidate would be Stacy McGrady. Same question, please.
Thank you. So I was at the Board of Supervisor meeting and I did hear the proposals and the great concerns to them, especially how it could affect farmers' rights, their ability to use their property, their ability to divide their property, put additional housing on their property. And I am very concerned about anything that takes away a person's personal property rights. That goes in my learning against what our Constitution was founded on. And it just brought up a lot of concerns. I'm also very concerned about how that would negate the ability for property ranchers, farmers to develop farm labor or workforce housing. It would have a significant impact on that. And as you all know, we desperately need low and moderate income housing to be developed within our community. So I appreciate the efforts of the Farm Bureau in their role in legislature and working with the state and working with other counties and other government organizations to protect our farmers and ranchers.
Thank you. And then last but not least, Don, with District 1.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm really glad this came up actually, because I've been hearing a lot about this since we had the meeting, and I'd like to take this opportunity to clear some information up. So I've been hearing that there's these changes and they were being kind of forced through and rammed through the general plan changes, and there wasn't community input. And if you were at the meeting, what we talked about, it was very clear, planning staff made it very clear, is we wanted to initiate the conversations to start figuring out what would work for the community, what would work for other groups that were involved, right? And so that's the stage we were at, where we wanted to start having people come to the table and start changing and talking about the numbers and what would and wouldn't work. So that's where we were with initiating the conversation for the general plan changes. And I, of course, think we need to, Farm Bureau, cattlemen's, all these stakeholders that have a say in this, of course, we want their opinion. We want to figure out what's going to work for the broad community, what's going to work best. And I know that with stuff like this, with general plan changes, it's a big deal, and it can be contentious sometimes. And I know that's because it cuts into people's bottom line at the end of the day, frankly. If you rezone things and change things like that, it makes it difficult sometimes. And I know there's an issue with lending power and borrowing power, and I'm sensitive to that. And that's why, like I said, we want to bring these groups in and talk to them about it. But at the end of the day, we do want, at least what I want to do is preserve some farmland. I want to preserve prime farmland. I know what happened in Santa Clara County. They lost their farmland, they lost that culture, that beauty, and I don't want that to happen here. So I'm willing to fight for farmland and preserve it. And I know that we need to all be part of that conversation, and I'm more than happy to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. We are now moving on to District 2 candidates. John Freeman is the first candidate to answer the same question.
Good question, okay. Thank you. I too am concerned about the ability of farmers to earn a really good living. If you, by zoning changes, curtail their ability to provide farm worker housing or provide housing for them and their families, you're curtailing their property rights and their ability to farm, and it's critical for for them to be able to do that. What we need is a general plan that is open and amenable to growth in the farm sector, encouraging growth in the farm sector. I'm going to remind people that I took a big giant leap in about 2019 and pushed the little old San Juan City Council to approve an election, and the election was on the ballot, and it carried by 70% for cannabis growing within the certain industrial zones in our city. It has not worked out. It hasn't done it, but I felt it was important because San Juan needs that tax money. We don't have a lot of money. We don't have money to have nice parks, good roads. Even though we're doing a really great job, we paved 11 roads in the last year or two. But once again, it gets back to just working with the people, finding out what they want, talking to the farmers, talking to the landowners, talking to people who want to live in this county and see what they want, and making the general plan work for them. Thank you.
Thank you. Colin?
Thank you. Yeah, so first off, the first part of it, how do you intend to engage with the agricultural community? To me, the agricultural farming community is really the cornerstone of San Diego County. There's a reason why outsiders like me moved here. I'm a city boy from Milwaukee, and I love this area. And well, I'm from Wisconsin, and I grew up with obviously a lot of agriculture around me, but I love this area because of the environment, because of the beauty, because we're really identified by farming and farmland. So we don't want to hurt our agricultural community. That obviously needs to be a priority in this conversation. But I'll just reiterate what Supervisor Zanger said, is that this was a process that started quite a long time ago, as far as looking at amending the general plan, looking at these particular changes. And so nothing was ever rushed. And the other key part of this is that we are simply initiating a conversation. So we're just declaring that we want to start a conversation, bring the community into the conversation, engage with the agricultural community and other stakeholders to figure out what's best for this community. And I will say again and again and again, when I go door to door and I talk to residents, They want to preserve what we have. They don't want to grow at the rampant pace that we've been growing at. So that's really at the heart of this conversation is how do we slow the housing growth, catch up on our infrastructure to a point where we can start to build our community in a way that's responsible, that maintains the beauty and preciousness of this, of agriculture in this community. So I would just invite everybody in this room that's interested in this topic, please be involved in the conversation because that was the entire point. And I'm hoping that we can still bring this back to the board and have a conversation with you all involved on how we want to move forward with general plan amendments. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes District 2. Our District 5 Supervisor, Beacon's on the.
I'll be honest with you, that conversation at the Board of Supervisors scared the crap out of me because I saw the implications in terms of the taking of the property and curtailing some of the rights of the property owners. And so I was proud to say, no, I didn't even want to have that conversation because we didn't include people like you all. And we should have. And whenever someone picks up a phone and wants to talk to me, I'll answer it. Someone just told me last night or tonight that, oh, B, your voicemail's full, so I apologize, I've got it cleared. But text is available too, but I call people back. I mean, I could probably look around the room and see how many people that I picked up the phone and I returned phone calls to regarding issues that are at the Board of Supervisors. But that entire conversation really scared me because I'm like, well, what are we doing as a board? I don't recall, I know Supervisor Cosmicki says that it was a long-going conversation, but I don't ever recall us giving that mandate to county staff to go in that direction. And it mystified me where we were going with that conversation at the Board of Supervisors on that day, on the 16th of January. But how I would do this to make sure I develop a better relationship with members from the Farm Bureau. As I said, now District 5 is more rural where it wasn't previously. I've made a connection with those members out there on Lover's Lane due to the flooding that happened last January. And they're embracing me like family. So that's what I'll be doing. I'll be knocking on your door. I'll have coffee with you at your kitchen table. I'll pick up your phone. I'll answer your texts. I'll answer your emails. But I will become a member of your community so I can go ahead and advocate for the farmers' needs and concerns. But definitely we need to preserve the rural community and preserve prime agriculture, not just something that's allegedly prime agriculture, but prime agriculture. And I think it needs to be defined clearly in the county, and you can't just make the allegation that it's prime agricultural land, and it's not. If it's been followed, not been harvested, not been worked, then let's get a clear distinction before we start saying that we're tearing up the heritage of our community. I think it needs to be clear. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes question number 1. We will start question number 2 with caller Kosmicki. Thank you. Considering that the John Smith landfill currently has an estimated lifespan of 11 to 12 years for in-county trash disposal, what is your stance on the future waste management needs of San Benito County? If you are not in support of the expansion, how will you address our garbage needs should the landfill close? There have been many solutions proposed, such as a transfer station, increasing garbage rates, and so forth. What do you propose?
Great question. Don't put me on the spot. So obviously this is an important topic. You know, what's happened here is, you know, we had the Great Recession and prior Board of Supervisors was looking for ways to generate revenue and had this partnership with this operator and came up with this idea to allow out-of-county trash at the John Smith landfill. And you know, in hindsight, the strategy that was put together, the specific details within it, was a huge mistake. The John Smith landfill is a local landfill, and you know, having 80% of trash at the John Smith landfill and having outside operators from Silicon Valley being charged far less than locals for trash hauling is a travesty, and it's wrong. And so I'm going to be very upfront. Look, I've heard this debate for 3 years now. I've dived into the specifics, the research. I was very involved with the ad hoc discussions on the landfill, whether it's the operating agreement, which is extraordinarily flawed, and nobody talks about the operating agreement. I've been talking about this operating agreement and was demanding that the operator come to the table on the operating agreement, which is really what sets the stage for these fees that are completely out of whack. It's unfair, and they're unwilling to negotiate on the operating agreement, which is really at the heart of this discussion, because the operating agreement is truly what lays out these details. And so is it okay, are you okay to have a landfill for the next 75 years or so, where it's essentially, we're gonna have dozens and dozens of trucks on a regular basis driving through your area, driving through the country to that landfill, and then having those outside haulers being charged about half the rates of local residents? We can find a better solution, and I think we can work with our operator. I just don't think what's being proposed right now makes any sense, and I will not support out-of-county trash at the John Smith landfill. We do need something in the future. That could be one of the options, by the way, is an expansion for in-county waste only. And that's what a lot of people just kind of dismiss when we're having this conversation, and when they're making these arguments publicly. There's this idea that there's an expansion or there's no expansion. It's not true. We could do an in-county only expansion. We could look at some other options that are on the table potentially. But I will not be supportive moving forward with an expansion, allowing that level of out-of-county waste, having fees that are so much less than local residents. Absolutely not. Thank you.
Thank you. John Freeman, same question.
Thank you. I have a lot of experience in this field. I was a sales and service manager for Romick Environmental in East Palo Alto for over 10 years. We were a hazardous waste service company, and the last thing we wanted to do was use the landfill. We were a recycling company. We recycled 90% of what we did, but there's some things you have to take to the landfill, so I'm very familiar. Colin made a big deal about the low pricing for out-of-county trash haulers. Let us be clear. There has been no, and let me repeat that, no out-of-county trash for the last 2 years, period, full stop. So we can continue with that route. We still will lose our landfill's capability to hold trash in 12 years. So we have some options. I, like Colin, am in favor of renegotiating the operating agreement with Waste Connections. It is very favorable to them. I will agree with that, but that's not the problem that it's in front of us. The problem in front of us is, where are we going to put our trash in 12 years? Where do you want to put it? You want a little bit bigger landfill? We're going to expand it by 100 acres. That's it. It's not 400 acres like some people say. It's not 400 acres. It's 100 acres bigger for the landfill that holds the trash. The surrounding area, buffer zones, stormwater prevention, not sewer ponds, retention ponds, those are the other 200 acres. And you want that because you want a safe landfill. Those are what gives you a safe landfill. Let me repeat that. That's what gives you a safe landfill. So I make no bones about it. I support the expansion of the landfill because that is the best for us as a county. We will have another 30 to 40 years to put our trash. It's not a good thing to think about. It's horrible. Sewers, landfills, they always lose in elections, because no one likes to think about them and no one cares about them. But if you're in a civil society, you have to have them. You really do have to have them. Now, as far as the cost, I will tell you, I used to send what's called non-RCRA trash to various landfills. I never send it to the John Smith landfill because it was more expensive. The cost in landfills is not the dumping fees that he's talking about. The cost in landfills is transportation. It's transportation. So transportation from anywhere else to John Smith is a lot more than it is to Kirby Canyon or any place like that, which is landfills up in the Bay Area. So you have got to look at the total cost. And that's where sometimes we lose track of why Waste Connections prices themselves a little lower. I personally am fine with raising the price, even Steven, out of county, and I'm fine with no out of county trash. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Freeman. This goes to that completes District 2. Now we go to District 5 Supervisor B. Gonzalez, if you don't mind. Thank you.
This is a very important question, and first of all, I want to say thank you to the planning commissioners that are present for saying no to the expansion when you did. Because Supervisor Kozmicki is correct, the operating agreement is not advantageous to the county at all. It was written by a county employee with not much input from county personnel, and it was written to the advantage of the current operator. And so the terms were pretty much set, and it was a contract that was ironclad. So both Supervisor Kozmicki and I sat on a ad hoc trying to look at renegotiating, maybe doing a third amendment, it would have been the third amendment. Then we were trying to get them to look at fees and look at other avenues so that the county would have a little bit more advantage in this contract. And we weren't successful in bringing them to the table. But your vote at the planning commission is going to force them to come back to the table. What we couldn't do, you did. So thank you for that. In terms of the expansion, that's just like, it's a hot potato because it's so vast. You know, the expansion, whether it's gonna happen or not, I can't say because that question hasn't been brought to the board of supervisors yet. So I'm reluctant to say anything of what might happen when we get that item to come to us. But I would like to see less tonnage coming in, definitely. I would like to see less trucks coming in. I would like to see a dedicated route. And I know the city doesn't agree with us with which route it is, but I see Highway 25 being the most economical in that that's a state road where it's not gonna be county has to go and fix Fairview Road or any other road that might be coming in, but it'll stay on the state route. Again, I don't know what's gonna happen. I can't predict the future. I can only respond to the question once we get it, but I do thank you, planning commissioners, for doing that. You surprised the hell out of me when you did it. I'm like, oh my God. But it was a brave move. And I think that you gave the county the advantage by doing that, where conversations will have to be had where we can do something differently. It's not a question of, is it gonna be an expansion or no expansion? There are gradients and there's options for the county now currently because of what you did. Whether it was appreciated or not by the community, I thank you. I thank you for that.
Thank you. We'll now move to District 1 supervisors. Our first supervisor to address this will be Don Zanger.
Thank you, thank you. Yeah, so, little history here is we wouldn't even be having this conversation if the county didn't start accepting out of county trash, and that was touched on earlier, but the landfill, the Johnson landfill was not set up for that. That was not the original intended purpose. And they started accepting out of county trash. And now we're having this conversation because before it was paused, it's temporarily paused, the out of county trash, but before that, 80% of the trash was from out of county. And if the current expansion goes through, around 90% of the trash will be from out of county. So it's not really our landfill, it's really a landfill to 5 other counties, it's just on our land. And so the current expansion, 90% of the trash from out of county with the current operating agreement that has also been talked about, total disaster. It's just not a good deal for the county. You can look at it every which way and it's just not gonna be good long-term for the county. I think that's pretty obvious. I think most people can see that, most people know that. And there is other solutions, there is alternatives. There is a more moderate expansion for in-county only. Or these are some of the alternatives that make a lot of sense. I've been interested in that since the beginning, but we can't even have those conversations. We can't even start to have that negotiation until we get this off the table, until we acknowledge that this current deal, this current expansion is no good for the county. So that's what we need to do first. Thank you.
Thank you. Dustin Weber.
Thank you for the question. The landfill expansion is something, for me at least, that I found a great deal of value in community input and public input, learning about the issue. It appears from the beginning that the county got a raw deal with Waste Connections. And the deal that was proposed was, just to maybe speak gently, it was not ideal. There were certainly better options for the county. And hearing all the public and community input, I thought was extraordinarily valuable in this sense. The one thing, I have some experience in a sort of tangential industry with landfill, not as like the direct experience that John has, but in transportation. So in warehousing, we use an incredible amount of transportation services. The company I work for currently is the largest green coffee warehouser on the West Coast. Talking about dozens and dozens of trucks a day. One of the laudable goals the state of California has tried to implement is clean fleets regulations, getting zero emissions trucks and vehicles on the road to improve environmental outcomes for the state and its residents. This is a good goal. What we're seeing in the industry is a good deal of drivers being forced out because their chassis are too old, their engines have too much mileage, and they don't get paid that much to be able to afford to get a new rig. So what's happening is transportation costs, even like drayage loads going to and from the port, are getting way more expensive. And so when we think about alternatives, and I think we do need to explore alternatives here with landfill, we do need to keep in mind that there are these tangential costs, especially with transportation, because that would be such a significant cost if we were to, you know, explore a transfer station or ship waste out of county. So that's just something to keep in mind based on my own sort of personal and professional experience that I want to, you know, make sure was centered in the discussion. I think there are plausible alternatives, but they need a lot more input, a lot more research, and we need to come together as a community to figure out what's best for us.
Thank you, Stacy.
Thank you. So our landfill is a precious, precious resource here in San Benito County, and we can potentially leverage it for the good of the entire community, or we can squander an opportunity, and it's going to take research, and it's going to take work, and it's going to take effort, and it's going to require that we talk about garbage, and nobody likes to talk about garbage because it's icky and stinky and all that stuff. But I lived in Monterey County, I worked in Monterey County when the Crazy Horse landfill closed down. And then we opened up the Sun Street Center transfer station. And you want to talk about an icky, nasty, messy garbage situation right in the middle of Salinas. And now you have twice the vehicles because you have the vehicles bringing the garbage in and the vehicles bringing the garbage out. So it created twice as much work. Sun Street finally got Sun Street Transfer Station, not Sun Street Centers. There is a difference. The transfer station finally was shut down with the garbage now being trucked elsewhere at great expense. So it takes work, it takes effort. It is a resource, it is a precious resource, and we need to manage it appropriately.
Thank you. That concludes second question. We will start with our District 5 Supervisor E. Gonzalez. Question number 3. As a candidate for supervisor in San Benito County, with the primary provision of police and fire services centered around Hollister, and considering the Hollister Fire Department's responsibility for rural structure fires and CAL FIRE's jurisdiction over wildland fires, a significant challenge emerges. How do you plan to address concerns about fire and rural crime and ensure adequate police and fire coverage in the county's rural areas?
That's a rather difficult question, in that it encompasses the city of Hollister that we have no jurisdiction over, and the county of San Benito. Now granted, the Hollister Fire and CAL FIRE are in partner with the county, but it's a difficult question. Going back to law enforcement, I have been one of the peace supporters of the Sheriff Cater and measures that he has brought to the Board of Supervisor in terms of for additional funding, equipment, and so I totally support law enforcement, both police and sheriff, but I don't have any say on police authority in their budget and so forth. But I am a firm supporter of law enforcement, and under that umbrella is also fire and CAL FIRE. I can't answer much on the fire aspect, I apologize. But it's gonna take us to work together, city and county together, to make sure that we meet the needs of the community. But I will continue to remain a staunch advocate of both police and sheriff's department, in addition to Hollister Fire, and to make sure that the needs of the county are being met.
Thank you.
City, sorry.
Thank you. We move to District 1, Stacy McGrady. Sorry, passing the mic.
Okay.
Well, this is right up my alley. So for those of you who don't know, I am endorsed by Sheriff Eric Taylor. I'm also endorsed by retired Gilroy Chief of Police Scott Smithy. I did serve over 20 years in law enforcement. After I retired, I worked in the private security industry, Facebook, Google, all those high-tech companies, and doing executive protection. Part of our grand jury report, if you haven't had a chance to look at it, was a 2-year investigation of our fire department, Hollister Fire Department, which, as you know, was expanded a few years back to take over CAL FIRE's previous services. I strongly support law enforcement, obviously, and I think that there are a number of things that we could do to help support our law enforcement officers. One of the things that we would like to do is bring back rural crime deputies and deputies who live in South County. I know that there are people who want to provide housing for deputies and their families to live and work out of South County. When my kids were young, we lived way down out Peachtree Road, 35 miles outside of King City. My kids went to Bitterwater Tully. I know what it is to live and work out there. And I would strongly support having rural crime deputies that are living out in the county area and can respond from there. We also used to have volunteer firefighters, and especially in San Juan Bautista, and that was a great resource. There are still volunteer firefighters in a number of communities throughout the state of California. Our past fire chief was strongly opposed to having volunteer firefighters for a number of different reasons, one of those being ongoing training. It's a lot to manage, but volunteer firefighters are a great resource, and I would love to be able to bring that back, especially in like San Juan Bautista and the outlying areas. I think that overall, the agreement with Hollister Fire taking over their more rural areas, I think that should be reconsidered. I think there may be some areas for improvement. If you have not had a chance to check out fire station number 4, it's located on the back side of the airport. It's a Quonset hut and some temporary buildings, and it takes the fire trucks almost 4 minutes from the time of call just to get it. You want to talk about a pothole road? They got a pothole road. And it takes them almost 4 minutes just from the time of call to get to the gate on Flynn Road that protects the airport security, to get out that gate. And that's the station that protects my house over in Comstock Spring Grove area. That's a concern. So we need to make some significant improvements to our fire department. So I encourage all of you to check out the grand jury report. There's a lot of information.
Thank you. Next question is for Don Vanger.
Right, thank you for the question. So, I think first off, talking about rural crime, it's been an issue, and right now the sheriff basically has 2 deputies that patrol the entire county, and was recently on a ride along with them just to learn about some of the communication issues they're facing and what they're going through, and they're spread thin, and so I understand the need for resources, and we always want to support that and support public safety, and we've done that. And early on this year, I believe it was this year early on, we got the sheriff a ton of brand new equipment, all new setup with body cams, tasers, everything, just to keep his guys up to speed with everything. And so they have that new equipment. And then as well, I sit on the communications ad hoc. And so basically, if you guys don't know, there's an issue with the communications with the sheriff's office, the radios they use. And so we're working on dealing with that right now. And we're in the middle of basically securing a vendor, and it's a huge process, multi-million-dollar process we're going through, but that's going to help, especially with the rural areas, because it's obviously where there's communication issues in the rural areas. So that's a huge piece of it. As far as fire, I take a different angle on this one and say, I think what goes well with particularly South County, there's a lot of organizations that are working with our ranchers on fire prevention. So you can sort of head this problem off before it becomes a problem. And I think that's important. I think we should definitely move into that and lean into that and expand that. And of course, we need to keep a good relation with and improve really the relation we have with the city of Hollister and CAL FIRE so that we can be sure to prevent as much as possible. Thank you.
Thank you. This goes to Dustin Weber. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for the question. My mom has a saying, it's not universally true, of course, but I've always liked it. She said, you get what you pay for. There's a lot of counties, a lot of personnel, in San Benito that are sort of woefully underpaid. The sheriff's office and, like, they have personnel that are woefully underpaid. We need to bring more competitive wages to San Benito County. And of course, the next question is, how do you do that? You gotta be able to generate revenue and maximize grant opportunities at the state and federal level. Basically capitalize on revenue opportunities where they are strategic and smart and beneficial to the community. So that's, one thing I would certainly look into: creative, innovative ways to expand revenue sources in order to get some of these departments, like the sheriff's department, the money they need to do their job effectively for the people of the community. And in terms of, I think wildfire prevention is a very good point as well. It's oftentimes with government programs, we don't look kind of into the future. We don't invest in preventative measures. But when research is done on these programs, especially ones that are done ahead of time with the purpose of preventing, a future bad outcome, oftentimes $1 up front is $5, $6, $10 in savings on the back end. And that's something I want to look forward to as supervisor, is investing in more of those types of programs. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes District 1. We'll go with District 2 Supervisor and then start with John Freeman. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dustin, for giving my answer. Great job. This is really a money question. This is basically a money question. I'm gonna tell a short little story here. I'm on the San Juan Bautista City Council, and we hired the county sheriff to patrol our town. We now have one full-time deputy patrolling our town. He works 44 hours a week. It's a union job, and he doesn't go much beyond that. And it costs about $160,000 a year for that person and his car, and that's an important thing. Okay, we budgeted another $160,000 a year for a second sheriff to patrol another 44 hours a week, a different 44 hours a week. This is a lot more hours in a week than 44. And so he said, sorry, Charlie, we don't have any sheriffs to provide. We don't have any more deputies that we can afford to give to you without taking from someplace else. So that's a lack of resources, and lack of resources is a lack of money. It's an economic development question. We need more economic development, not housing, but economic growth in commercial and in light industrial in the county, where the tax money goes to the county. Sorry, Mayor, not to the city. Anyway, we need more tax revenue, not higher taxes, more tax revenue for more businesses, so we can hire more sheriffs, so we can have an adequate fire department, so we can have adequate public safety. I'm fully in support of additional public safety. I push for the additional sheriff. I can't have him. I wave $160,000 around. Sheriff Taylor says, sorry. It comes back to economic development. We need more economic development. We need people who say yes to light business, light commercial, light industrial, who appreciate it, who understand it. I've been in the business world for almost, I don't want to say how long, 40 years. Okay, and I can relate and I can deal with that. And we just need more economic development. That's the way we'll get more sheriffs and more firefighters. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, so, with one of the things that really isn't talked about a lot, as far as what we've done in the last few years, is really the enhancement of public safety, and the amount of money that the county board is committed to the sheriff's office in particular is pretty astounding, and I'm proud of that. I support it. We put millions of dollars, literally millions and millions of dollars of additional budget dollars toward the sheriff's office for more deputies, for better equipment. Supervisor Zanger talked about body cameras, for enhanced radio communication technology, which is going to be a real game changer for this community. And, we have a situation now where if you have unreliable radio communication and you're out in South County or North County somewhere, that could be a real problem. That could be a life that's lost because of it. And so this board stepped up and we funded this radio communication enhancement, which is going to be a big, big deal. Again, very proud of that. I will mention I was supportive of, over in San Juan, the substation that we now have in San Juan Bautista and the windmill market. I was very supportive and worked with the sheriff on that. Being District 2 Supervisor, he came to me and kind of got my thoughts on that and then moved forward with it. So very happy with that. I do want to mention the Anza Trail in my district as well. There had, very first year on the board, there had been a number of break-ins at cars, the people that were going to the Anza Trail. And what I did was I worked with a lot of the groups that are regularly using that trail and came up with, I basically put my my little bit of discretionary money that we have every year for putting camera surveillance at the Anza Trail. And lo and behold, the break-in stopped. So very proud of that. And then other than that, I will say on rural crime and law enforcement, I have always been a huge proponent of increased traffic enforcement. And I know that the people that like to drive 20 and 30 miles an hour, there's probably a few in this room, probably don't want to hear that. But traffic enforcement in this state and this county is severely lacking. And I'm just a big believer that that's a big cultural shift that needs to happen, because it's not just about giving people tickets. Nobody wants a ticket. It's about, in a lot of communities, the vast majority of criminals, they're caught when they get pulled over and they got a gun in the car, they got drugs in the car. And we don't have enough of that in this community. Our sheriff is very well aware, and I know he's committed to it, and I'm hoping that we can have more of that. As far as fire goes, we're in the process of forming a fire protection district, which will stabilize and to sustain our fire resources into the future. So new developments will be investing in a fire protection district. We picked up a $700,000 wildfire prevention grant. And I do also believe wildfire prevention needs to be something that's a huge focus. County working with landowners, agriculture in particular, and with nonprofit partners that work to prevent wildfires. Thank you.
Thank you. This question now will be addressed to District 1, and we're going to start with Dustin Weber. As a candidate for supervisor, one of the critical challenges facing San Benito County, it's a little bit in alignment with some of the things you've touched on the last question, is the need for additional revenue. What specific strategies or initiatives do you propose to generate more money for the county, ensuring sustainable growth and financial stability? Are you in support of a 1% sales tax countywide to support county provided services?
Thank you for the question, and now it's my chance to say thanks, John, for stealing what would have been part of my answer. No, I don't make any bones about it. I think smart economic development is where the county needs to go. And everyone, you can say like, what is smart development? But the types of applications John was talking about in terms of light commercial, light industrial, I think is very smart. Something particularly, I think relevant here and that we could do out here is bringing in more agriculture technology industry. I would love to incubate that industry out here. It appears Salinas is making a big play for that. And recently, as 4 months ago or so, they had their global robotics expo out there, and they're expected to get that expo again next year. Given our proximity to Silicon Valley, given our pretty robust agricultural sector out here, $350–400 million in annual sales, I think this, in terms of, in addition to the workforce that we have, I think this would be a great region to incubate something like agricultural technology. And that's one of the things I would chase as supervisor, is bringing that sort of industry to San Benito County. 1% sales tax, sorry. Yeah, that would be something I give pretty strong consideration for. Look at the projected revenues and everything and the details around the proposal, but in terms of needing to bring revenue, I think we need to attack it from as many angles as possible. And so, yeah, that's something I give strong consideration to. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Bordeaux. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Obviously, revenue is a huge one. And so I have a few things. I think, first of all, right off the bat, we should talk about zoning. And so I think I've been proposing more mixed use zoning as opposed to residential. That refers to commercial and residential. That's mixed use. And I think that's a lot better use of our land than residential zoning. I think I know that it's just more revenue generating. It's more economically viable long-term. And then as far as industry, I mean, Dustin actually touched on a little bit with ag tech and sort of the, bio ag industry. And I mentioned this before at a different event, but there is someone I actually met at a Farm Bureau dinner this year, and he owns a company in Gilroy, and he's doing this cutting edge stuff with biologicals as opposed to pesticides, and he wants to expand his business. And so I went over there and I'm talking to him, and I'm still in talks with him because I'm trying to basically court him to come open up shop here. And so I think that's sort of the proactive approach that we need to be taking with a lot of this, because one by one, we can start to make a dent and bring some more business here. And as far as other industry, sorry, not turned off. As far as other industry, our tourism industry, totally underdeveloped. We have a national park here, Pinnacles National Park. There's, I think, 88 national parks in the entire country, and we have one of them. I think that number's right. And we don't utilize it. We don't brand it. We hardly market it. I think that's a total disservice that we're doing to ourselves. And we've brought it to the board this year. I did, as well as I think in the past Supervisor Kosmicki has, to work on the branding of Pinnacles National Park. I think that's huge. Along with that goes our wine trail, our history. So I think the tourism industry is also an area that we really need to lean into. As far as a 1% sales tax, I'm kind of with Dustin Bride. You can't ask me something like that without seeing any numbers at all. I need to see the kind of proposal before I can get into anything like that. Thank you.
This we go to Stacy McGrady, please. We're still in District 1.
Thank you. Critical challenges, additional revenue. A lot of the things have already been talked about, right? Agriculture business. Taylor Farms is doing a fantastic job with developing new breaking industry in the agriculture technology areas. And I think with our new Gavilan College campus, we are well placed to leverage those types of skills and resources through the college. We also have, another great resource here in our community is Hazel Hawkins Hospital, and the opportunity to rebrand and rebuild that hospital as a destination hospital, serving concierge level service and specialized treatment is out of the box thinking that we could definitely, it's a beautiful resource. Everyone says it's the best hospital and it's got great facilities. Why don't we leverage that and use it to the betterment of our entire community to generate income and generate wealth for everybody who lives here? And so these are some of the ideas that I have. We also, the other resource that I always think about is our airport. We have a great local airport, best runway anywhere. We don't even know how many airplanes land and take off from that airport every day. Like nobody's counting. And I think that's an unrecognized or untapped resource that we have here within the community. So those are a couple places that I would be looking to generate revenue. And as far as the 1 cent sales tax, honestly, overall, I am opposed to any more taxes. And I understand the need. I know that we are fiscally strapped. I know that this is a poor county. I teach at the police academy. I know what the recruits make, and I know what they make coming here and why they don't stay. And it's in all of our government jobs. I understand that. I appreciate it, but we can't keep going back and tapping that well. That well is tapped out.
Thank you. That completes District 1. We'll go to District 2, and we'll begin with Colin Kosmicki.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I'll start off with what we have done in the last 3 years and what I've been directly involved with. Number one, when I joined the board, there was a very long stalled tax sharing agreement with the city of Hollister. And what the tax sharing agreement is you have to have this tax sharing agreement in place, basically splitting how much of the revenue from the tax revenue that you get from new businesses. You have to have that in place in order to annex county lands that are bordering around the city of Hollister into the city of Hollister, which is actually the definition of smart commercial growth. So so basically I was put on an ad hoc committee. Again, it was stalled for years, and I was put on an ad hoc committee and essentially got the deal done within 6 months. We now have a tax share agreement, which opens the door for businesses to be annexed into the city of Hollister and to be developed in areas that already have services, already have infrastructure. You're not going to have those additional costs that you have when you build developments miles and miles away from city centers. So that's in place now, and we actually have, very exciting, project that should be coming to us at some point from Christopher, which is going to be a mixed-use project, not so much housing, but hotels and all sorts of industrial and commercial that we're, hoping to have in that area. That's just one example of the door that was open because of the tax share agreement that I was essentially involved in negotiating. I also was involved in developing with former Supervisor Tiffany, who was also along with me on the tax share agreement, a sales tax reimbursement program. So we put a program together. It came about business in the Aromas area that was having some difficulties. They wanted to expand, but they were looking for that extra incentive. And we came up with this program that allows for a certain portion of sales taxes to be rediverted back to those companies within the first several years of expanding or starting a new business. So a lot of people don't know about this, but it's a huge incentive that new businesses have, basically because of myself and former Supervisor. Also was a big supporter. I insisted that the board take up this allowing micro enterprise kitchens. It's just a small example, but what this allows for is, I get a laugh from Noia Salinas, I guess. What this allows for is basically startup restaurateurs who are interested in starting up. They can't afford these kitchens that cost hundreds of thousands of dollars, but it allows you to start a small business in your home, and you'd be able to expand eventually into a restaurant. We use a seven-figure dollar amount from pandemic relief funds supporting our local businesses. I also agree that the tourism industry is something that we really have to tap into. I did propose branding San Benito County as home of Pinnacles National Park. And whether you like Pinnacles or not, it's really not the point. We need what I refer to as the anchor in our mall. You have an anchor in these malls, and the point is, you go to the anchor, you're interested, you go to the other attraction. Thank you very much.
Thank you. It was
And if you don't support sales tax, we looked at that, and public was not in favor, so heck no.
And please pass that to John Freeman. Thank you. It's not your turn yet.
Thank you. This is once again an economic development question. As for the sales tax, I'm stuck between a little bit of Colin, want to see the numbers, but I also firmly believe the best taxes are the taxes that we don't pay. Okay? The best taxes are the tax, let me repeat that, because you're gonna make it confusing, but it's not. The taxes that we don't pay. So what are the taxes we don't pay? TOT taxes from hotels. Other people who visit us pay those taxes. The huge advantage of those is that goes directly into the county or city, whichever jurisdiction you're in, budget. It doesn't go to the school district, doesn't go to the water district, doesn't go to the mosquito abatement, goes to the county or the city. So this is why everyone who talked about tourism is correct. We really need to stimulate tourism, but we need to build more hotels everywhere, particularly in the county, so it can go into the county budget, so we can hire more sheriffs, so we can hire more animal control people, so we can hire more county employees that do their job properly and are happy and stay in their job and don't leave after 2 years because they got a better offer from Santa Clara County. We need good, experienced people working in our county, and we need that. We need to pay a competitive salary, and we need competitive benefits. And the board made huge improvements this year, but more needs to be done, and particularly with the public safety sheriff's department, so we can have a robust sheriff's department. So San Juan can get his second deputy, so we can have the rural sheriffs that Stacy talks about. We need all of that, and that comes from increased taxes from other people. That's the best taxes there are, TOT taxes, the hotels on corners where they make sense, okay? I don't want it off in the middle of nowhere. If we build them at Pinnacles, there's no sewer, there's no water, there's no electricity. It's tough down there. Anyway, but we could have them, we could have them in Hollister, in San Juan, and in the county, close to services. Thank you.
Thank you. Pete Gonzalez, please.
That's a great question, and all of the other candidates up here touched on most of the important parts. Is that we have to find a way for the county to develop economic revenue. We have to think outside of the box. We have to invite businesses in to be the startup and to grow. We have to work with the San Diego Business Council. We have to look at the Economic Development Corporation that has been hired by both the county and the city of Hollister. And they're developing plans, but we're not following that advice. I don't know about the city, but on the county. The advice it's given to, we're paying $100,000 for that advice. And yet we're not following it. So I would say first, follow the advice that's given to us on what we should do in terms of providing and developing economic development within the community. The airport, thank you, Stacy, for mentioning that. The airport has been something that is underutilized. And you're right, nobody's counting the planes coming in. I had a great conversation with an individual in this room who was talking about setting up a tower and counting the planes coming in and the revenue that we can generate just simply from that simple task. And I couldn't believe how simple it was, but yet it's not being done. So you're right. There's a lot of things that we can be doing. In terms of the tax sharing agreement that Supervisor Kosmicki had mentioned, he's right. When we have the process of annexation, then there's a division of future taxes that are allotted to both the city and the county. And I understand that it was a historic agreement that was brought to the county. However, I think it was an unfair agreement, where the county gets 25% of the dollar and the city gets 75%. What's wrong with 50-50? I mean, I wanted 50-50, but people knocked me out of the room. 75% to the city and 25, this is my time to talk, please. So, there's a lot of things that we could do and we need to do, but we have to think outside of the box. We have to be brave to take that step and invite, businesses in to have them grow here in San Diego County. Going back to the 1% sales tax, the county did look at that. We did look at the numbers, and it was just introduced at a very inopportune time. It was introduced right at the height of COVID, when people weren't working, they didn't have their income. It was being supplemented by all of the COVID relief funds. And so I was a no on that sales tax, in that it was just not the right time. I think a 1% sales tax is not a bad idea, because it will impact everyone. Anyone who goes to the store, gets gas, it's not just going to be impacted on only the property owners if it goes through a property tax. The 1% sales tax is an equalizer where it hits everybody evenly. And I know it's more money to pay, but there's a potential for revenue to come in. And I would hope that the county would go back and relook at that to see. But when we looked at it 2 years ago, it was just an inopportune time. People were struggling financially, and it just wasn't a good time to.
Thank you, Vivi. Hang on to that, Mike, because we've concluded our questions. We will now have 2 minutes each candidate for a closing statement. We'll begin with B. Gonzalez in District 5.
Okay. You can see how passionate I am about my community. As I said, born and raised, I've been representing District 5 for the last going on 4 years. I challenged a 16-year incumbent who got a little bit complacent in the job, and he forgot about District 5, particularly the west side of Hollister. And I have been advocating for community services, for us to look at ways where we need to provide a level of service to the community that we have been neglecting. And it's not the people with money that I'm talking about. It's just your everyday citizen that I'm fighting for. For example, the hospital, when Mary Casillas was in a situation 2 years ago, she came to me and asked me, can the county help us? And I'm like, sure, why can't we? Because if we didn't, the onus would fall back on the county in terms of providing services. But I was the only supervisor at the time that would listen to that conversation. I had to go to the media and cry foul because my same supervisors did not want to have this conversation in the open. They said no behind closed doors, but they didn't want to say no to the public. And so I brought this conversation to the forefront, and I am on the ad hoc for the hospital to try to keep the doors open. Because as Stacy said, there's potential revenue in keeping the hospital locally under local control. I think the battery might be going out. But anyways, going back to the hospital, the county will be providing a public press release coming up shortly in terms of our plan of what we need to do and are going to do in terms of helping the hospital stay afloat. So stay tuned. But vote for B. Gonzalez, District 5.
Thank you, Vivi. Let's try this one. Nobody wants to hear me anyway. We'll start with John Freeman.
So,
Thank you for holding this important conference. I've demonstrated my leadership abilities many times. We have the largest public works project in the county, little old San Juan Bautista. Yes, we are paving roads. Yes, we're taking money from the county to help out, but it's our contractor. He's paving both sides of the road. It's our contractor. It's our contract. It's our city engineer making sure it gets done right. Okay, so let's put that to bed. Also, I have never, ever, my opponent has misrepresented me in several Facebook posts. I have never, ever been in favor of 80% out of county trash coming to the landfill. I said it's two completely separate issues. One, do we need to expand the landfill? And that's a two-part question. The first question is, are we going to generate trash in 12, 13, 20 years? If that answer is yes, it is, then you're going to need a bigger landfill. The second question is, do you want to accept out of county trash? And that's a money question. We've sat here and talked about being out of money. I personally don't. I've been in Heatherwood Estates once, and I've heard the trucks go by. It's really bad. Hopefully the electric trucks will be a lot quieter, but they're not coming for 5 or 6 years. We need to control and maybe keep the out of county trash period stopped. I don't know. I'm open to anything on that. I have conversations with people, but I'm gonna tell you, you're gonna need a landfill in 20 years. You're gonna need a bigger one. And that's just the way it is. So, I'm talking about economic development. I've been doing economic development even for the county for a long time. One of my biggest accomplishments that I did almost by myself was the addition of 2 additional ISPs, that stands for Internet Service Providers, that use our tower, our water tower in San Juan Bautista to broadcast their signal out. And cheaper internet is better for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move to Colin Kuznicki, please.
Thank you very much. Just briefly, on the hospital, which to me is the #1 issue facing our community right now. We have to save this hospital. And I do want to clarify that there was one supervisor that supported a $10 million bailout loan to the hospital, and I was adamantly against that so that we could come back to the table and start the process of finding a partner, a financial partner that makes sense for the hospital, not just giving them $10 million, which one supervisor wanted, and handing over $10 million in cash and hoping maybe they can somehow pay it back when the model is broken and the model needs to be fixed. And that's what we're in the process of doing now. As far as the landfill, I would just suggest, please just go read the EIR comments from the public, which include from my opponent, and you can judge that for yourself. I will say just overall, I love San Benito County. I'm not a politician. I know politicians tend to say that. I'm not a politician, and people that know me know that. I am very vocal when I need to be vocal. I watch out for your tax dollars. There's nobody that's looking out closer for tax dollars, that calls out public officials, that asks the tough questions. Nobody does that more in local politics than I do. And I want to continue serving in this role because we have a lot of work to do. We've started with the roads. We started with illegal dumping. We're cracking down on it. We have the highest fines in the state for illegal dumping because of myself and Supervisor Zanger pushed it. We are going to address the homelessness issue. We are going to make progress in this community, but we need bold leaders. We don't need people that are up there to pander to special interests and to do what we've had too much in the past. We need to grow the right way. We need to fix our infrastructure and grow at a responsible pace. Otherwise, we are going to lose this community. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That concludes District 2 supervisors. We'll move to District 1 and begin with Don Zander.
Thank you. Thank you. We're doing closing statements. Now we're talking about the hospital and the landfill again. I'm gonna just keep it brief and short here. Thank you everyone for coming out tonight. Thank you for putting us on. Thanks, Gary, for having us here. I really appreciate everyone coming out and just learning about everyone here. The reason I got involved originally in 2022, the reason I ran and was elected was because I care about San Benito County. This is my home. I was raised here. I'm raising my family here. This is why I got involved. This is my focus. I don't have political ambitions or anything like that. I'm just focused on San Benito County. I saw a lot of problems and I'm just working on the solutions. I have a vision for San Benito County that is an alternative vision to what we've been going towards. It's not just bad roads and houses, it's something different. I have a vision, I have a way to get there, and so I just ask for your support to keep working for you all. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, hosts, attendees, everyone again for the opportunity to be with tonight and answer questions. I hope to earn your vote for District 1. I, like everyone, I think here, very much in love with this county. When my partner Kendra and I were looking for a place to call home, we chose Hollister in San Benito County. It's an incredibly engaged community. It's got a just astonishing natural beauty. There's so much that's desirable here that we want to protect and maximize. There's a lot to get done though too, and I think I have the right blend of experience, background, everything to do that. I've worked in blue collar industries, I've worked in white collar industries. I don't know if there's a Venn diagram out there of folks who have a license to drive a forklift and practice law, but I'm that person. Seriously. I've worked in the private sector and the public sector. At the federal level with state partners, I served on a community services board once that focused on mental health issues, folks with intellectual disabilities, substance use disorders. I love working at the local level, and I think you can really see the tangible results. I think you get a deep connection with the community that makes serving the public very, very worthwhile. It's what makes it a privilege. So I hope to earn your vote tonight, and that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Stacy McGrady.
Thank you so much. So just a chance to clear up a couple of things. While I don't support a 1 cent sales tax, I would consider for revenue building a luxury sales tax on boats, expensive cars, big mansions, maybe swimming pools, things like that to generate revenue is something that I would consider as opposed to the 1 cent sales tax. I am not a career politician. I am doing this because I'm a 4th generation Californian. My family were settlers in Santa Clara Valley, and my husband and I had seriously considered leaving California and going elsewhere, but we decided that we're going to stay. I have the experience, the opportunity, the skill to fulfill this position, and I feel that it is my obligation to step up and do the very best that I can. And I'm very grateful for those skills. I look forward to building trades within the schools with Gavilan College and expanding the knowledge base there. And finally, and maybe most important, I loved my opportunity being a 4-H parent and a 4-H leader at the club level and at the community level. 4-H taught my kids and taught me so much about leadership. And one of the things that I will always take away was the theme at one of the leadership conferences. And the theme was, be a leader, take a risk. And it taught me that you cannot be safe. Like Bea was talking about earlier, you can't safety up and say, oh yeah, behind closed doors, and then step forward and be worried about protecting your position and not doing the right thing for your community. And that is why I'm not a career politician, because I'm here to do what's right for our community. To be a leader, take a risk.
Thank you. That concludes our questions for the candidates. I would like to thank each of you for your insightful responses. And I'd also like to acknowledge all of you in the audience for taking the time to listen and learn and participate in this important civic engagement. At this time, I'm really proud to call up our San Benito County Farm Bureau President, Donald Wirtz, to say a few words. Donald?
Well, since I'm the guy that's keeping you from either the coffee, the cookies, or the door, I'm going to be brief. This evening, we've been able to witness a thoughtful exchange of ideas and perspectives that offer some very valuable insights into candidates who want to serve our community. Your presence and engagement contribute to the election process, and we really appreciate the dedication that all of you show in sharing your visions for the future for our community and looking at it from the ag and the rural perspective. So thank you very much. For all of you that joined us tonight, now remember, your voice matters. Your role in the selection is crucial. Take the knowledge that you got tonight, share it with your friends, your family, and take it to the ballot box. It wouldn't be any set of remarks from me without at least one quote from a dead guy. So Jefferson said that a well-informed electorate is a prerequisite for democracy. So that's one thing that I'm rolling with tonight. I'd like to thank our board of directors for their dedicated effort in crafting tonight's questions. I know some of them look like essay questions from a scary history class in college. There was a lot of thought that went into those. Thank you to our diligent timer, Pat Wers, for keeping us on track. Thanks to our moderator, Mary Lou Cofelt, for keeping us on track. And thank you to the Community Foundation for providing us with this venue for tonight. Thank you, Gary. We really appreciate it. We have incredible events here at the Epicenter. We really do appreciate having this resource in our community. It's very great to have. And then finally, a very special thank you to Brittany Brown, our Executive Director. I'm going to spill a little bit of the tea at one of our last, or at our last Board of Directors meeting. We had the oh crud moment of realizing that this year's primary election is a March election and not a June election. And it was a little bit of a fire drill to get tonight's event put together, and that's due to Brittany.
You did it.
Lastly, I'd like to thank all of you that are members of Farm Bureau for your commitment and your membership in our organization. If you're not a member, just click toward the back, sign up. We want to keep growing our organization. We are the largest ag-focused organization in the county. Our treasurer would be upset with me if I didn't mention the fact that in the state of California, San Benito County has the cheapest dues of any county farm bureau in the state. So, sign up for San Benito County Farm Bureau. And even if you're a member of Santa Clara, Monterey, you can be in more than one farm bureau. Yeah, again, your membership helps keep you connected, helps us sponsor events like these to reach out to the ag and the rural community. If you are a member, you get to take part in these events. Again, thank you for your time, and have a safe drive home. Good night.
Thank you. I didn't know if that's what you were saying. I wasn't sure. Oh, I know. I love him. I kind of thought so too. I know. You're really going forward. I know.
I thought he was saying.
I was like, good job.
I'll talk to you. I gotta call you before farm day to eat some kind of barbecue.
Oh, ag boosters. Okay, yeah, call me. We'll figure something out. Yeah, we have a meeting tomorrow, so I'll get in touch.